Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What is going on? It's a beautiful day to talk about Ripple and XRP and even the SEC. Garlinghouse, the court or the judge will decide this case, even though up to date we've seen about $15 billion lost over this SEC v. Ripple case, and that's all retail money. Thank you, Gensler. What's up, Chip? We got a ton of stuff that we're going to cover today. We're excited. The people in the audience here are excited. I think we're ready to kick this thing off.
Let's let it rip. Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
And also, Jeff. So yeah, we got a lot of stories to cut through, and also a big shout out, a massive OTC shout out to none other than really somebody that's been with us for a long time, but that's Susie Kusia. I probably say it wrong. Kusia. Thank you for that support. Really appreciate that. And it's always before the show starts, which is always amazing because that's very rare. But Susie owns that. She's the one that always is on top of that. So much appreciated. But let's jump in, Jeff. I know you got a story that's pretty near and dear to everyone's hearts here. So if you want to, why don't we just launch right into some news here?
I do, Simon. We are going to talk a little bit about we're going to talk about the Ripple CEO, some of the things that happened, but I would be remiss if I didn't say, hey, make sure you get your cup of strong espresso. We have a lot of topics to cover and a short time to do it in, and you're going to need it. So, that's good stuff.
You got a long way to go and a short way to get there. So short time, I should say.
All right. So let's kick this thing off. This is a great article, and why, Chip? And we're actually going to get into also. There's a video interview. We'll get into that in a little bit, and that was Garlinghouse on Gasparino. But for right now, I just want to go through the article that was posted. This came up, and I think you guys are going to like this one. Because this is very, very timely. So let's see if we can pull this up. This is Ripple CEO says that the landmark lawsuit is going to be decided by a judge. He doesn't think it's going all the way to trial. Now, this is a massive statement. This is coming from somebody on the inside, which is the CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse. I like this statement here. We're not going to play this video right yet. But Garlinghouse, I think the SEC is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So we got to get into and figure out exactly, what that is. But this is really, really massive. I look at this, and Chip, one of the things that we've heard from many within the community is this is going to settlement. And and we could be wrong, and we have a steak dinner on this, but I could be wrong that it goes to settle. I just don't see at this point, from a political perspective, how the SEC can rail on companies for this long with this notion of enforcement, this notion from the current chair that they are above it all, and they're the ones that are in control. They're in the seat. They're in the captain's chair. I don't know how you remove the captain from the captain's chair, even though he might have been self-anointed and self-appointed. It makes it very, very difficult, Chip. Before we get through this article, so just this statement right here, cryptocurrency trial of the century.
Right. It's what's amazing is the fact that, it was when it started, it was just a bunch of ragtag community members, the XRP community, then it kind of branched out. And I think one of the most important parts of this SEC, this v Ripple filing, has been that this is not an attack on Ripple. It's not an attack on XRP. It's an attack on the entire crypto, space at large. And finally, people are recognizing that. And it's amazing to see the coverage on Fox Business that they're giving it. By the way, CNBC completely mute on it. But again, who watches CNBC? Let's be honest. It was a player at one time 20 years ago. People have pretty much forgot about it. It's really become a shill network for, let's say, a certain sort of way of thinking. Would you think that's a proper assessment?
I think so. I wasn't sure it was still a thing.
Well, that's the other part too. It's like, is it still a thing? But what's exciting about this, though, is like this cryptocurrency trial of the century. Yeah, okay, this century, we're only 22 years into it. Okay, fine. But honestly, it probably might be, even if it happened last century, it would have been the cryptocurrency trial of that century because it's massive and the impact is massive.
It's massive
And
on this spaceship. And, $15 billion in lost, either realized or unrealized gains, in this market, just massive, a lot of turmoil. And we're talking about just off of retail holders of XRP. But this trial also has, far reaching impact on the cryptocurrency as a whole. So I like that, Hans Loaded. The facts are not in dispute. No jury trial required. And that's a perfect statement. And Garlinghouse coming from that exact mindset, is really great. So in this interview, we're talking about the SEC. He said he expects the case will not go to trial. He believes the judge has enough evidence to rule from the bench. I don't see, Chip, anywhere in this statement, see if I can get that highlighted. I don't see anything in that statement that he says, I expect that we're going to settle because the parties have come together to expect some form of settlement. I see that he's stating here that it won't go to trial because the judge has enough evidence already to rule from the bench, not settle from the bench.
Jeff, well said, spot on. And this is funny because this is why we have the slowest growing YouTube channel, period, right? Because we come from a different opinion set, a little more, our opinions vary from a lot of the crypto influencers, especially in the XRP community, that have been going settlement today, settlement tomorrow, settlement at 3:45 today. And that's great. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Jeff, I would love a settlement. I don't think that we are in the opinion that a settlement wouldn't work. Just don't see it. So you got to call it the way we see it. It's kind of, we've been sort of on the opposite side of what everybody has been saying, and big news and breaking news and it's settlement. Look, I would love to see something pop across my Twitter feed or my iPhone that says, hey, it's official. The SEC has settled with Ripple and here's what it looks like. But you're right. Based on everything we've seen, and then we got to go back to the Garlinghouse statements early on. Yep. Early on, he said, we tried before they dropped the suit to work something out with them. They had all this discovery going back 2 years, and then they lifted that 5-year rule so they could go back even further. That's called full transparency and cooperation. One thing Ripple and Brad Garlinghouse have been very good about is the transparency. They allowed discovery to go back further than is legally allowed because they're like, hey, we got nothing to hide. We're going to be full transparency. And he also said, if you remember, that the only way that they would settle is if the SEC came out and said today's XRP, not a security. Now, Jeff, if the SEC comes out and says that, and says, okay, let's fine you because, it's a gray area. And, if you guys agree to a settlement, pay us $100 million, for the 2013 sales, because maybe we feel like it wasn't sufficiently decentralized, whatever. Are they going to come out, Jeff, really, and say that today's XRP, completely decentralized, not a security, it's a commodity, we won't touch it, and it will all be handled by the CFTC?
Yeah, I don't see that happening, anywhere in the near future. And this is, part of the issue, and so there's just so much that's going on here. And man, if, and this is a big if, we saw the SEC showing any kind of, bending or, any kind of I should say, if we saw any goodwill coming from the SEC towards any of these other companies, and, the cases and even the language that's being used, because we're talking about an entity, the SEC, and we've talked about this so many times before, but we're talking about the SEC, the entity that is in place to protect the interest of retail investors, not to enforce and be punitive against companies, but to make sure that companies are adhering to the rules of the road, and they are not taking advantage of their retail investors. Hence the notion of the security, hence, the the outcome of the Howey test, and and then moving forward. But even from that point, with the Howey test forward, they're going back and they're referencing case law, but they're not referencing law written by Congress to make clear statement
Boom.
to say that this is what a security is, and spelling it out with a congressional act. The SEC has been given certain authorities, certain powers. At this point in time, we fast forward from 1946 to now. It seems the SEC is in complete overreach. But the problem is that it's not just the SEC in complete overreach. We've seen multiple government agencies, and we have multiple unelected officials sitting in positions of power that have anointed themselves to be rule makers. And we've seen that with Gary Gensler, and it's very dangerous. It's it's unconstitutional. It goes against the fabric of everything that this country is based on. It's problematic. And we're starting to see that in the outcome of this case. So again, if there was any kind of goodwill coming from the SEC towards these other crypto companies, but I don't see it. We don't see it in this case, Chip, and we haven't seen it in the language of the investors either. They keep saying they're there to protect the investors, but yet they do everything that's contrary to helping investors. It just it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And again, that would be interesting, the type of hearings that happen next year, early next year, once a new Congress is sworn in. And I want to put this statement up here. This is good. Alchemist says, I'm out of order. This whole trial's out of order. That was a quote from Al Pacino from And Justice for All. If you remember, that was where he breaks up, I'm out of order. The whole trial's out of order. He jumps up and he starts going a little bit nuts. And the funny part about that whole thing is that when we talk about how this will be chosen and decided. Here's the question I have for you though, Jeff. Suppose judge comes back and says, look, okay, SEC, multiple issues here, it's not a security. So what does the SEC then go appeal that to a higher court, not take the loss, but then go ahead and appeal? And then we get this thing wound up again for another, who knows how long.
That's a great question. And man, with the way the mindset of Gary Gensler, right now, that would be really trying. Could you imagine, the case settles, or, there's an outcome, the judge has a decision, the court has a decision, and then the SEC says, you know what, we're coming after you again. We don't agree with this. I would really hope that with that outcome, that the SEC would just let it lie, and it doesn't get elevated to the next court. I really think it would be, so critical at that point, to say, hey, you know what, SEC, you've been shown to be wrong, and it's time to end it. It's really crazy.
It's time.
Look here, it is time. Here's so this was the interview with the Claman Countdown. Garlinghouse said trials and juries are really to determine if there's uncertainty about facts. The facts aren't in dispute here. The law is in dispute. So
Correct.
That is an amazing statement. And that's something that Hans Loaded had thrown up. It's not the facts are indisputable, right? Because facts are facts. They're not changing. It's very clear. But it's the law, and there's a lack of clarity. And then the ambiguous nature of that is what the SEC wants. But then the SEC, the dispute here is the SEC thinks that they have the authority. I shouldn't say the SEC. Gary Gensler thinks that he has the authority to write law. And that's not the case. And then Chip here, it says, lawyers close to the case tell Fox Business that Judge Torres likely won't make a ruling on the summary judgment motions until next year. So Chip, We're talking about this is going on. This isn't ending in December.
No, it's not going to end in December. But here's something else. I want to throw this out there too and see what everybody thinks about this, because does anybody find it relatively odd that Stu Alderoty has been so quiet throughout this whole thing? He's the general counsel for Ripple. And all of a sudden, the past week, he's being quoted in articles. He's been heavy on the Twitter feed, pushing pretty hard. He's been on that. He was in that interview with Politico. We have another interview with him today. He was on CoinDesk. Now, this is pivotal because the mainstream crypto publications starting to cover this right now when they won't even cover improprieties with other cryptos, things that have been going on or issues, but they're covering this because they're starting to wake up to what this really means for the entire crypto space. But do you find it odd that, and all of a sudden we see Garlinghouse, and what I loved about the Garlinghouse appearance on Fox Business was super light, positive. Did you feel at all in that appearance or anything that's being said on the Ripple side of thing that they're at all a bit worried? Do they sound worried at all? Do you think they sound question? Are they fighting back? No, they're very light and saying, hey, here's what it is. Here's the facts. Here's what we know. And the SEC is out of line.
100%, and we're seeing, so we saw, outside of just with Garlinghouse, think about some of the other statements coming out of Library. Why is it that everyone is so upset? Why is everybody so passionate? And these are big CEOs. They've been around the industry a long time in crypto and outside of crypto. They're known entities in tech. And so, we've had the CEO of Library. We've had obviously the CEO, Brad Garlinghouse from Ripple, the attorney, as you mentioned, Stu Alderoty. We have statements coming out of Kraken and Kraken's new CEO that just took over, also, lashing out at the SEC. Their previous CEO was lashing out at the SEC. Elon Musk is lashing out at the SEC. How many big CEOs in the space have been lashing out at the SEC lately? But the point that you're bringing up is really, it's amazing. These guys are coming out strong. Garlinghouse is in the news on, front and center. Stu Alderoty coming out front and center. This is really important. They're very, very confident. And, to just kind of cap our thought on this, here's this right here. The SEC has lost its way, said Garlinghouse. Congress gives the SEC power. The SEC can't just take the power. And
we saw that, Jeff. We saw that in that ruling with the EPA, Virginia versus EPA. This latest SCOTUS ruling about, I don't know, it's a couple months back. But this is where they try to implement rules, and they're like, and the Supreme Court said, no, you're given power. This is the power you have to regulate. You do not make new powers. And what we have is a very similar thing happening right now. So it's interesting when you contrast what happened in that case with what's happening with the SEC, because Congress grants the power to be able to regulate what they pass as far as legislation. They do not have the power to enforce new rules. And we've seen this be violated over and over again, especially over those last 2 years, which we know what's happened over the last 2 years. We've seen all these kind of things thrown out there were highly unconstitutional and also violate a lot of, U.S. Constitutional rights. I want to throw this up here. This is pretty good. Jess Costanzo says, guys, how angry, did you see how angry Jamie Dimon was when he talked about the cash cow being eaten away by crypto? Yeah, he started spewing about crypto again because here he is. He's running the show over there at JP Morgan. And guess what's happening? They're getting eaten alive. And their Q3 results are going to be interesting to see. There it is. Well, here's the obligatory thank you. Thank you, BZ. Appreciate it. BZ Comedy Channel. I love when he drops that in the comments. So it is pretty interesting. This one here by Sophie in the big picture. They're doing this to XRP. What are they doing to other startup companies that are not in crypto? They're everybody is so drunk on power. It's like, and it's been from the beginning of time. This is what you can count on for human behavior since the first human appeared on Earth. It doesn't stop. And for most of the world's existence, that oppression has been there. It's really only been the last 100, 150 years where that has started to shift in we the people's direction, Jeff.
Thank goodness, So here's Jim D. The bottom line in this case is there's no existing relevant law. Case dismissed. And they're trying their damnedest to apply all sorts of external, case law, apply, the thing is, even with Gensler, though, he tries to apply the Howey test, but he only applies one part of the Howey test and not even the complete part of the Howey test, of that one, tenet of the test, so it's so amazing. These guys are reaching, typical, overreach. Miguel is saying it doesn't matter if the SEC appeals the judge's decision. If it's favorable to Ripple, Ripple would be able to proceed according to the judge's decision. and operate normally in the U.S. And that would also be relevant to the exchanges that would then be carrying XRP. You know, and there are Chip, which exchanges continued to carry XRP and sell here in the U.S.?
Well, I mean, Uphold said, hey, until we hear otherwise, as far as we know it, not a security. Also, BitTrue said, hey, we don't care. You know, listen, and so I applaud that because everybody else backed off. And in crypto exchanges outside of the U.S. delisted it. For what? You're not under SEC rules. I mean, it's bad enough that in the U.S. we have to be, but you're not. And the only country in the entire world that has this issue is the U.S. Everywhere else, XRP has basically been called, you know, it has use case, has its commodity.
Just quick shout out to Jeff. How would you pronounce that last name, Chip?
Petit.
So he's saying that his mom's 100 years old, and it's amazing.
Amazing. Shout out.
He's out of Oregon, so it's bright and early out in Oregon, and you know, prayers to your mom for being 100 years old.
That's cheers for that. Yeah, my great grandfather lived to be just 2 months shy of his 100th birthday, and it was amazing to be the fourth generation to be able to have somebody like that, and the wealth of knowledge, someone that came over at the turn of the century, and the stories are just phenomenal. So I mean, it was great.
Hey Chip, if you still had your baseball card collection that your parents sold when you went away to college all those years ago, do you think they would be like Richard here is saying that he expects to make profits on his silver coin collection? Are his coins a security? Do you think your baseball cards would be a security? Do you expected a profit?
This is a great, and this is something that you brought up so many times. I think you brought this up a couple years ago, but the whole idea of, I actually have a stamp collection. I don't know. It was a weird phase I was going through. It was cold winters. I don't know, but I have it. Somehow my parents kept it. They didn't keep all my LPs. They didn't keep any of my my baseball cards, especially my comic books. None of those were kept. But I got a stamp collection. It's probably worthless. But again, Jeff, if I sold a stamp, if I bought it back then for 30 or 40 cents, and it's now worth $4, it's 4x, man. And the funny thing is that a security? This is how ridiculous this whole conversation is. Can I play a video by Stu Alderoty on the CoinDesk, a real short one here?
Let's do it.
Let's put it up here.
First, I want to agree that I do believe that this policy in the United States of regulation by enforcement is a failed policy, and it's creating havoc in the marketplace, and that havoc in the marketplace ultimately hurts the very retail consumer that the SEC purports to protect. I think what we're seeing is power and politics elevated over sound policy, and that is not a good thing. To your question, why Ripple? That is a good question. I'm not sure I have a good answer to it. What I will tell you is that the lawsuit was filed on December 22nd, 2020, on the last day of the prior administration when Jay Clayton was the chair of the SEC. The day after the lawsuit was filed, Jay Clayton left office, and within 2 weeks of the lawsuit being filed, the entire senior leadership team that was, I think, involved in the decision to file the lawsuit left the SEC. So why Ripple? I'm not really sure. I think we can all venture a bunch of different guesses. Maybe the SEC was tired of playing whack-a-mole with some smaller tokens, and they felt that if they could go after Ripple and indirectly attack the digital asset XRP, which Ripple relies on to facilitate its cross-border payments, maybe they thought that they can send a broader message to the entire market. But I think what they've learned is that if you challenge a well-resourced company, that well-resourced company can put on a very robust defense and really expose the SEC that what they're doing in this case is not applying the law. It's not a faithful allegiance to the law. They're seeking to remake the law, and they don't have the power to remake the law. Only Congress can remake the law.
Wow. That's a massive statement, Chip. That is coming out. These guys are coming out strong. I mean, holy cow. That was Alchemist is saying, Alchemist saying Stu will punch you in the face. And I was just thinking what you Chip says right in the throat. It's a throw punch. That's a knockout blow right there. You put Stu and Gensler in the ring together, and Gensler just got KO'd. That was
like
it.
You do not want to get Gensler at any time. This was interesting. This is a really short video, but this really here kind of sums up the sentiment of what's going on with Congress, at least for a lot of Congress, not the ones that are on both parties that are trying to make something happen positive with crypto. But James Rule, XRP, had tweeted this out, and I think this is really spot on because, I named this clip "Angry Guy Yelling at TV Host." This is just like an angry guy, get out my lawn, kids. Here we go.
Crypto, and I ask myself the question, what's a good basis upon which you're going to buy crypto? What is the underlying value? What are the fundamentals? And the answer is there none. It's purely and simply speculative. I think everybody's been told that they're clearly and simply speculative. I know there are going to be people that are crypto lovers. They're going to disagree with me, but stay away from it. It's purely speculation, and you might hit it right, but you're probably going to hit it wrong.
I mean, Jeff, can this guy just even operate Google? Can he just spend 3 minutes of his life and type in the word use case and cryptocurrency or something along the lines of that? But for him to make
passionate.
There's nothing about crypto. It's like, every generation faces this where you have old guy.
What was the guy's name again? What was his name?
Don't even know who. I'll be honest with you. I don't even know who that is.
For long-term invors,
like he looks semi-familiar. But he's on with Liz Claman, right? Oh. So she's obviously had, Brad Garlinghouse, Charlie Gasparino. She's covered this whole thing. And I love that the price of XRP is on screen while this old guy's yelling at the TV. I don't know. There's nothing about crypto. Crypto's
so angry. Holy cow. So angry.
Purely speculative. Well, dude, I hate to tell you this, but, let's look at the stock market. Purely speculative. And especially when you look at the P&L statement, when you look at the risk in a 10K, you go and assess the risk and you actually look at what the risk is and you're like, whoa, if you start reading, and it's always buried at the bottom. You ever notice that, Jeff? It's always way at the bottom, risk, threats, all this kind of stuff. And one of the funniest parts of that, anytime you see that, you go like, well, okay, that's fine. Then they talk about maybe their acquisition somewhere along in there. But then you look at the losses. They're bleeding money. They're losing money hand over fist. They haven't had a positive quarter in maybe 6 quarters. And yet their stock is trending at a higher value. So explain how a company can be so unhealthy and still have positive reaction. If that's not speculative, I don't know what is. It's all speculation. This guy's like crypto, but he's purely assessing that crypto is just it's all speculative. I mean, it's insane.
It was amazing, just to see the passion of it, and it's crazy.
Shut up there, guys. Hey. What's a good basis upon which you're going to buy crypto? What is the underlying value? What are the fundamentals?
Exactly. Well, here's the fundamentals. First of all, has a use case, right? Solving a big problem in the space, which a lot of cryptos that are successful do. This guy, he addresses it, but then he goes, it's pure speculation.
Right.
It's job.
Yeah, I was going to try to look him up, see what his commentary was on Amazon back in the day. I'm sure he was super. What kind of company would try to sell used books online? They're never going to succeed. There's never going to be any positive outcome. What is this thing they call the internet? So Jonathan is saying, thanks, Jeff and Simon. I catch you guys when I can. Totally appreciate the live deal. Late here in Australia. Cheers. Now, Chip, some might refer to you as Simon, and new people coming in might refer to you as Simon, because for the past 2 shows, your name has said Simon.
That's right. I saw that. I
you've noticed
it.
It.
I left it there because I was going to change yours to Kef, but I don't get around to it. But people know that's a joke from way back when, and you can.
Not sure how, but
yeah, I mean, you can go ahead and edit that. I can make. I was going to change yours to Kef, but it's like, hey, call me Simon, whatever, man. It's all good. People know, Jeff. Come on, it's not like they don't know. I like it. I like playing along. So, and here we go to. Let's look at this other video here. I want to show this one. Let's look at this one here. What is this one? So this is interesting too, because this one here, let's listen in here, Jeff. Let's listen. This is Veri DAO.
Welcome to the Veritasium DAO channel. We have some breaking news. We have Trey Cup from the Veri DAO with us. Trey, what's going on over there?
Well, the Veri DAO has been working on several initiatives which we think are very exciting, but the one that we're most excited about right now, and I think is topical to to today's discussion in the crypto community is the Amicus Brief that we're going to file. The Veri DAO has worked with the SEC in the past with FOIA requests. We've worked on a no action letter with attorney Jeremy Hogan, and we've recently been inspired by the wins that we're seeing the Ripple versus SEC rack up for the crypto community. We've also read a very good amicus brief by the Digital Chamber of Commerce, which inspired us to move forward with our own amicus brief in the Ripple versus SEC case.
I think that's a really strong move, and it's really a great way that the community can get involved in.
Jeff, we got another amicus brief being filed in this case, inspired, he says, Trey Cup says inspired by the wins that he's seeing, but also to the Digital Chamber of Commerce too, which the judge was allowed as well. And so it's interesting that this thing is it's really starting to get some traction. It's blowing up. And, somebody commented on Twitter saying, well, you're just jumping on the hard work that John Deaton did. And yeah, but I mean, strength in numbers, right? Strength in numbers. And if you have everybody from the community coming out and,
now, what is Veritasium, Chip? Who are they? These guys?
I'm not sure. The Veri DAO is a standard DAO. I haven't done that much research on it. But again, I think what we're looking at here is the fact that everybody is threatened here. I mean, we can probably look it up. We probably, it is right there.
So the Veri DAO, a self-organized collective of Veritasium token holders pulling our intellect, skills, and resources to seek out partnerships for the Veritasium. And here's their to donate to the legal fund. So then I went over, they have this access Vidir here. Then this is the Veritasium. I'm not sure if this is the same Veritasium. We'll have to get, just as kind of last second pulling it up. What is it? Veritasium builds blockchain-based peer-to-peer capital markets as software on a global scale. We enable the seamless connection of parties and assets without the need for a third authoritarian interest. Any entity with internet access can participate. Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is exactly it. It could be symbol is Veri. There could be other Veris, but if it is the Veritasium, and again, I don't know if this is accurate. I don't know if this is it. So anyhow,
I mean,
it could be
the bottom line,
be, but
yeah, the bottom line is the fact that it's so this was an interesting clip. It's a really short clip, but I wanted to put this because Cynthia Lummis, who is a senator here in the United States, has
Chip, hang on just let me throw this up. Just Jim D is saying Veritasium has a patent on crypto, and the SEC Treasury confiscated their tokens.
Well, there you go. So they have a reason to be able to file here. I mean, again, this fight is everybody's fight, and I think it's all for one and one for all, And here's one here. So Cynthia Lummis has been pretty much pro crypto. She came out with that bill, and XRP Darren tweeted this little clip out. And the question was, Cynthia, Senator Lummis, what do you mean sufficiently decentralized through ownership? Can you please share the rules? What the rules are for a decentralized network? And I'll preface it with that, and then let's listen to the clip here.
Something like Cardano would be considered a security.
Well, it is most likely that of all of the cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and Ethereum would be commodities. But there are a lot of crypto assets that are not sufficiently diversified in terms of their ownership or the manner in which they are overseen. The fact that Bitcoin certainly and Ether as well to an extent are tremendously ubiquitous in terms of the way in which they are owned and the manner in which their algorithms are approved of makes them the most likely candidates. And of course, they make up over 60%, almost 2/3 of the market capitalization of all of the crypto assets.
I don't even know what she said there. That was like a whole bunch of like nothingness. And it really goes to show you that she has zero clue other than being somebody who's purchased Bitcoin. She has zero clue. Over 60% of the market is dominated by. Okay, so what?
So, yeah, I don't understand what she's trying to. I don't know what her statement is, and we're missing, part of the rest of it. But that section right there, and we're discussing. She was saying something about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and she's really, for a long time, she's been very passionate about crypto, very focused on Bitcoin and Ethereum, and maybe that's all she really knows. She's overall, I'm very confused as to what she was trying to allude to regarding Bitcoin and Ethereum. That part doesn't make sense. It'd be good to see more. I would really like to see, again, we've discussed this before. There's one major lobbying entity in DC called the Blockchain Association. I don't see, honestly, and granted, we're not on the ground with them. We don't talk to them, but there's not a lot of visual that's outwardly facing to the people, to the community, to see that they're doing anything. I could be wrong, but when that, Senator Lummis would be a perfect candidate for the Blockchain Association to go and have a sit down with her and her team and say, hey, by the way, you might want to look at the space at large.
Not the Blockchain Association, Jeff. The Blockchain Association would be like, Senator Lummis, you're absolutely right. It looks like Bitcoin and Ethereum are like, that's not the right one. They should sit down with actual companies. They should sit down with Charles and Brad, from let's talk about Cardano. Let's talk about XRP in general, or Ripple, how it's used. They're missing the whole use case. And the other thing is, what problem is it solving? Okay, so first mover advantage for Ethereum because of smart contracts, but guess what? Everybody else out there, and especially when Flare is officially it hits its stride, you're going to watch everybody, and especially with being able to work with any chain, that interoperability between chains, you're going to start. You're seeing everything. Everything was starting. Market share was eroded from Ethereum already before they even switched over, before the big merge. So I think it's going to continue.
And Alchemist is bringing up an interesting point too, which is full transparency and disclosure of the assets held by anybody representing
Bitcoin.
in the U.S. Congress, whether the House or the Senate.
She has disclosed she owns Bitcoin. Yeah,
Bitcoin and potentially Ethereum.
Yeah, so let's jump into some news here real quick. I want to show this. So cryptocurrency exchange Bitso launches interoperability QR payments in Argentina. And if you know what's going on in Argentina right now, they have 100% inflation. So this is an interesting sort of a timing when you look at launching this. And Bitso is a Ripple partner here, so it's interesting to see that they're going to start driving crypto payments. And again, if you see that kind of inflation as 100%, that's pretty insane. So you're going to want to you're going to see adoption move really fast. And so this interoperable QR payment system is the first of its kind in the country, hoping to attract more Argentines to use crypto as payments. And like I said, sort of conditions drive adoption as well. That's pretty cool. I think we need to address this. XRP jumps 44% in a week after Ripple moves to dismiss the SEC lawsuit, and they're filing for summary judgment. And this is interesting because if you look at it as a whole, we always talk about this, Jeff, the decoupling. XRP decoupling from Bitcoin. Bitcoin moves up, the entire market moves up. And what we've seen is Bitcoin moving down and XRP making a big jump. It's 44% in a week, where Bitcoin has lost a little steam. They've kind of been a little bit down and elevating. So there's a little bit of that decoupling happening. And then this one here, I wonder, well, let's see. Here's another reason.
That's a massive jump. Think about that. If we look at, and this morning, the whole market was a little bit green on CoinGecko, but overall, it's crazy.
Look at this too, Jeff.
We're getting a lot of red, I guess.
The other item I wanted to point out here is the fact that this is in Decrypt. Now, Decrypt doesn't generally cover XRP. You cannot ignore when one of the biggest, at one time was number 2, altcoins is making moves. And it's amazing to see the coverage that you typically ignored. A lot of publications in the crypto space cover it, but not the big ones. You don't usually typically see CoinDesk or Decrypt or a lot of these types. But here they are talking about it. Bitcoin under 19,000, while Ethereum down another 12%. And what do we have here? Sharp rise of 44% for XRP. So, and they talk about this and they address it, which is great. Also, how many times we talked about India? India back in the news here. I wanted to hit this news real quick. So India crypto guidelines to be in place next month. Been hearing this for 3 years, Jeff. Okay.
It's hot and cold.
They hate crypto. They're outlawing it. But they're going to do something positive. They hate it. They're going to go after everybody crypto. But no, maybe, it's like
India destroyed all of their exchanges a couple years ago. They basically banned crypto, right? And then they said, we like blockchain, we don't like crypto. And then all the exchanges shut down in India, and there was a short period of time, and then they started to reopen. And there was all this, there's been nonstop turmoil over the years over in India. It's kind of crazy.
Turmoil, Jeff. Look at this right here. So we talked about this the other day. Nasdaq to take a big step in crypto. So Nasdaq's going to take advantage of the growing interest in digital currencies among investors. So market of institutional Bitcoin custody as it becomes a service provider in the cryptocurrency space. It's launching its anti-financial crime technologies in tandem with the custody service, screen out money laundering, fraud. And this is great because what's the first thing that everybody points to? Well, it's Bitcoin is being used for illicit functions. Okay, well, guess what? Their anti-financial crime tech that they're going to put in place with their custody service, and they're going to go ahead and they're going to make sure there's no money laundering. Now, the same cannot be said of banks, some banks, not all banks, but even some of the best controls they have in place, it slips through and they continue to get fined, but it's a slap on the wrist. They don't usually, and look at this, Bahrain approves crypto payments for over 5,000 merchants. It's given a nod to partnership between EasyPay and Binance, enabling 5,000 payment gateways to accept crypto. So there's all these and these are only some of the ones we pick out. There's so much going on. Korean crypto bank and Blockdeamon to offer retail staking services. Cardano Vasil Hard Fork upgrade finally goes live. It's part of Vasil's part of the Cardano's third development cycle, regarded as the most extensive upgraded for Cardano to date. Upgrade expected to lower transaction fees, boost speed, and enhance decentralized applications. Shout out to Cynthia Lummis, who said that Cardano is probably a security, even though it has decentralized apps. And look, it's just the news is incredible, man. I mean, the news is out there, Jeff. It's good stuff everywhere.
It really is. So then, with that, see if I can get this open. This is also great because we've got, so we're talking about India, but how about the EU? So now you've got, also on CoinDesk here, but the EU finalizes legal text for landmark crypto regulations under MICA or MICA or however it's pronounced.
MICA, I don't know.
MICA, yeah. A leaked draft of text reviewed by CoinDesk shows the rules could apply to an algorithmic stablecoin and fractionalized NFTs. So there's a ton going on. The EU has finalized the full text of its landmark markets and crypto assets legislation. So I guess it would be MICA, whatever. Officially, the text is still open to comment, but sources briefed on the talks have told CoinDesk that in practice it's finalized. That's a big deal, So the leaked draft came out September 20th. MICA, once passed into law, will require issuers of crypto assets to publish white papers containing technical roadmaps for platforms to register with the authorities, require stablecoin issuers to hold capital and be prudently managed. So this is a big step forward in Europe. So while the EU is making strides, while parts of Asia are making strides, while India is making strides, all these countries are making strides. And then we've got the G-man sitting there in Washington thinking that he's the self-anointed king of crypto and he's going to, do what he thinks is prudent. And it's crazy, Chip. And then I was perusing.
Hang on a second. Oh, no, hang on a second. I got the setup here.
You got it?
I got this set up here. Funny, we always think alike.
One?
Yeah, because I have this on my screen here. But
okay,
let's pronounce it MICA, MOCA. That way we're always pronounced MICA, MICA, MICA,
however you want to say it.
So yeah, here's the setup here. So the the SEC official account said news: Boeing to pay $200 million to settle SEC charges that it misled investors about the 737 MAX, right? The plane that they built, right? And so Gensler comes in and says, And again, this is Gensler, Gary Gensler. In times of crisis and tragedy, especially important that public companies and execs provide full, fair, and truthful disclosures to the markets. The Boeing company and its former CEO failed in this most basic obligation. And yeah, so Jeff, this is where I came in and said, hey, Gensler and the SEC failed to protect XRP investors and instead eroded over $15 billion from these investors that they're so-called going to somehow protect. Beyond a tragedy, but get ready because a new day is coming, Mr. Gary G. Gensler, Daddy G. So yeah, that's yeah, a new day is coming and I cannot wait. And if you guys say, forget about signing petitions and changing your name to, that's all great, but get out there and vote, get behind candidates, go out there and do some door knocks for candidates that are pro-crypto. I don't care what side of the aisle they're on. I just know that if they're going to be pro-crypto, they're pro-innovation, and they're worth moving the conversation forward. And complaining about it's not going to do much work. Yelling at your TV like that guy, cryptocurrency,
crypto bad, crypto bad. Orange is good. So Fernando was saying, hi guys, do you know when XLS20 is going live? And there were some issues, and then they fixed the issues.
It's back on track. So it was another 2 weeks. It was another 2 weeks. So it's probably I think within a couple, anywhere from 7 to 10 days, because they did get it back on track and they did put it up for the vote again. So they still have to go they still got to go the time period there.
Yeah,
so
that's exciting. Naked Golfer XRP went up because of that whale buying 500. Which whale out there? 500 million. Is that a bank? Is that a treasury? Who's buying $500 million worth of XRP? Who's deciding to move that money around? That would be super speculative. I don't know that we could even try to guess at that. But Chip, I got some Jim D here. He's talking to Jacob. People who missed the opportunity to buy XRP at 22 cents after the SEC dropped their WMD will be crying in a few years. Life-changing opportunity. And why does Jim D think it's a life-changing opportunity? Because 100,000 XRP tokens in 5 years should be generational wealth that elevates you to money lord status with the 1%ers.
Yeah,
and
that's
I'll tell you
thing,
what, there's a possibility.
But I will take a little umbrance with a little bit of that, because I will say this, that here's what's going to happen. At some point, XRP starts flying, right? Because, I mean, you see on this news, but suppose the judge comes out and says, okay, slaps the SEC, gives the win to Ripple, and it's pro for the entire space. Now, if we take that into account, what do you think is going to happen when you're looking at Bitcoin, 19,000, 18,000, 17, you're looking at Ethereum for one ETH costing you somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,200, $1,300, right? Or you're looking at $5 XRP. You're looking at $8 XRP. You're looking at $12 or $15 XRP. All of a sudden, that's starting to look pretty good. And as the run-up happens, people will not be able to execute fast enough to get into it. But that also will inflate the price.
That's right. Now, Jared is saying, now it's 100,000. What happened to one Vincent Wilson? Remember the days? One Vincent Wilson was all you needed to get generational wealth, but that was, pre-Biden inflation. So now with the inflation,
no, I think you're still up for that. He's talking about Lord status of over being a percent, like that massive percent of that 1%. You're talking about almost 8 billion people on the planet, and you're 1%. Jeff, I've never been really good with the maths, but you got to figure this out, that's Lord status, right? That is like run your own country, go buy an island, go buy a country. Hey, what the hell? Buy Canada. You could buy Canada. We go hang out with Bubba Cogs up there in Canada. We could hang out together, and we'll just we'll put him in charge of the crypto, and everything will be on track. So that's what we do.
Will be Dory.
That's a whole different status.
Yeah, if you just have one Vincent Wilson, then you're driving nice cars, living in a nice house. But if you have 5 Vincent Wilsons, you're buying Canada. You heard that here first. One Vincent Wilson will be life-changing. 5 Vincent Wilsons will get you to buy Canada. So Canada will be up for sale. Once,
of course, we joke about that, but it's fun to joke, because I'm sure I'll hear from Bubba later. It'd be like,
what would you do if you bought Canada? Because there's only about 30 million people in Canada, and they have the landmass that's almost comparable to the size of the U.S. A lot of it's undevelopable.
I would
But
officially say, here's what I would
it'd be
say.
interesting if you bought it. What would you do with it?
I would say the U.S. no longer participate in the NHL. It's moving back to Canada. So every year a Canadian team wins the cup. That's one of the things I'd say first. Be like, U.S., you're not involved anymore. U.S. breaks off in their own damn league. They can have their own damn thing. I don't know. I'm goofing around.
Would you self-anoint yourself as king of Canada?
I would also make coffee crisp. I would make coffee crisp bars, the best chocolate bar candy in the world. If you've never had a coffee crisp, it is hands down. We should make it the official chocolate bar of the channel. And I'm telling you, if you guys want to send any of that over to the team over here, we're happy that. But I got to tell you, it's hands down the best. Back in the day, I would go over the border just because I grew up right across the Canadian border. And as I've talked about many times before, most of my family stayed up, immigrated from Hungary to Canada. They stayed there. But my grandfather's like, I'm going to U.S. And he was the only one. His twins stayed there. So he ended up coming here. And that's how I ended up being in the U.S., thanks to my grandfather's decision to move south and say, the hell with this, I'm going to the U.S. And everybody else stayed in Canada. There you go. And my relatives are still there with my original surname. So they are still there with the name. And Simon. Did you change that back? I'll change yours, man, for the last bit of this thing. Think that's funny, dude? That ain't funny. That ain't funny at all, man. It's a little bit funny.
Yep.
So, yeah. There you go. So you can play that game, see?
There you go.
Chip and Kev, the Kev and Chip Show. There you go. That's how it is. So I saw this one out here too. Transforming art philanthropy was how blockchain tech can cut out institutional middlemen and directly connect philanthropists and artists. And philanthropy giving constitutes the bulk of the budgets of art. So the whole idea is like a lot of this money is eaten up in middle structure, especially when you're talking about musicians, Jeff, near and dear to my heart. Musicians who do a gig back probably in the 90s, late 90s, a solo type of thing, you get $100 to $200. They're paying $100 to $200 now, which means they're making 75% less with inflation, maybe less than that. So it really hasn't. This is how you avoid all that.
Hey, hello from Stuttgart.
Voice of Faith.
Voice of
hello
Faith
from
in Stuttgart.
At some point, we'll have a voice of reason. We'll have a voice of the people. We the people, everything else,
The voice of faith.
Alex D says, so effing early. Go follow Alex D. Vlogs.
It's not even 6 a.m. for you.
And he doesn't care what you do with your money.
Got up bright and early, Chip. He
doesn't care what you do with your money. That's what I love about Alex
Holy
D. If you're not following him, go follow him.
Who else is here? Who else is here? Tap.
Whoa! Hey now! Who wants it? Everybody wants it, man.
Everybody wants a little.
Everybody officially wants it. There's no doubt about it. Everybody wants to be.
Jim D is shorting the Canadian market with some options on Canadian ETFs. Doing good stuff up in Canada. There you go.
Yeah, well, everywhere is good stuff going on except for what's going on here in the U.S. But again, that's. Sometimes you need a turmoil, and just like I've always said in life, sometimes you got to fall down and scrape yourself up pretty good. Yeah. Then you're about ready to get up. Someone kicks you in the throat. You're about to get up, and then someone drop kicks you again. And then when you get up, you go like, "Hey, everything looks amazing up here," because it was no good down there. You need a little darkness to appreciate the light, and sometimes going through some turmoil gets us all to a better place.
So Kung Fu Tuber says with his 5 Vincent Wilsons, when it becomes generational, he just said just buy the SEC headquarters and convert it into an orange field. Now, how amazing would that be? That we're putting an orange grove in DC. It's never been done before. We're going to do it.
Even if they're plastic trees, we don't care. And we'll have some weird scheme that will sell them. You can buy a plot of the lot and there's only a set amount because they're plastic oranges. There's a set amount and hopefully the price will rise at some point. So there'll be a speculation of buying it for an increase and we'll sell that, but you don't have to worry about that. We'll go ahead and actually pick them off the fake plastic tree which is a great, by the way.
But you know who we'd hire to run it? We'd hire Gary Gensler to run it. I think he'd do an outstanding job making sure that
I don't think anybody's going to hire Gary Gensler to do much of anything. I think he just rides off into the sunset with his $120 million that he meets with. He's met already 6 times as the SEC chair, but cannot meet with 100, the officially 75,000. There's a lot more than that. XRP investors can't meet with them though, but that's fine. So I wanted to throw this up just for a little bit of humor as we ride out of here. This is interesting because, David Schwartz, who is the chief tech officer over there at Ripple, he said, having never actually seen a Brad Garlinghouse, this is what artificial intelligence thinks a person named Brad Garlinghouse should look like. So there's it's a picture of a bearded guy, kind of just like kind of a heavier set Garlinghouse. I mean, what really resembles him maybe is the beard. Okay. Then he said, and this is what a chief cryptographer named David Schwartz thinks should look like when he's working. There you go. So he put in David Schwartz, chief cryptographer at Ripple, working at his computer, and there you go. And you can kind of tell that in some ways there's a little bit of messy stuff going on here. And if we look behind David Schwartz's bookcase, he's always got like a lot of clutter, because that's what his brain looks like. If you ever remember the Matrix where all that stuff was flying up, that's David Schwartz's brain. His brain is going 50 million directions, where some people's vein has got like a light bulb kind of like turns on and off once in a while, where he's got all this data flying. And then he said, well, here's what Ripple CTO David Schwartz at work should look like. There it is right there. That's what he should look like. And
with a nice haircut.
Yeah, that's what he should look like. There you go. So, and then he just said he gave it Arthur Brito. Of course, we know Arthur Brito has never been captured before, so I guess AI doesn't have anything to comb the interwebs with. And this is what it thinks Arthur Brito looks like: sunshine, rainbows, sandy beach, just a whole bunch of just like a random. Yeah, well, it looks like a Brito. If you know the artist Brito, it looks like one of his works with the heavy dark lines, and so this is what Arthur Brito looks like.
That's too funny. Yeah, man, David Schwartz always on point with his comedy. So it's awesome stuff, Chip. We got a lot going on this coming week. There might be a hurricane coming to Florida. We don't know, but tomorrow night we do know. So anyhow, Chip, it's been fun.
Supposedly, Jeff, this hurricane is supposed to hit us around Tuesday. From what I'm seeing, Tuesday it's supposed to hit
Wednesday-ish.
But is it a tropical storm? It's only a storm, right? At this point, right?
It's a storm, and then it's going to hit Cuba, and then it's going to escalate before Cuba or after Cuba. It's supposed to come in as a Category 3, 2, Category 1, tropical storm, or just a little rain squall, or maybe some sprinkles. They're not 100% sure yet, but all the spaghetti charts are predicting rain.
So David Schwartz, for the last one, he said, I asked AI to take my glasses off, instead of put different pairs of glasses. So I think that's pretty sharp on the right one there. So yeah, there you go. There's AI. But that's all we have, Jeff, for today. I appreciate everybody coming in here, the smartest, sharpest people in crypto. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody joining us from the Baba Discord. If you guys want to join a really engaged community and some of the best memes that I've seen and great conversation, Baba Cog's Discord. Again, I have no affiliation with it other than participation in there. No monetary, but it's good conversation there. So I will say that. But anyway, that's what we have today. Jeff, anything before we take us out of here?
That's it. You said it all. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here, guys. We will see you on the next one. Kef. There you go, Kef. And look at your Kef name. And Simon. I'm going to change mine back. Kef and Simon. We'll see you guys out. See you on the next one. Have a good one. Chip and Jeff. Out.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.